Sometimes things do not go as planned when you buying an abandoned car. But if you're not willing to deal with adversity, man, please don't ever come close to the car game because it ain't all easy. But if you ain't watched part one, let me go ahead and give you a recap. So look, I bought this abandoned car from my local tow yard, and it's been sitting in that tow yard for years, so you know I had to go get a battery. I got the battery, I put it in, I called my locksmith to make a key, and the car actually started, but it wouldn't stay running, man. I was hoping it's just the gas, so we're about to figure that out. It's part two for the abandoned Hyundai. Let's see what it do, man. Let's see what it do. Alright y'all, so look man, we finna take it back a little bit because before I actually had it towed to the house, I had to do some work, man. They towed it out for me and I noticed that both of the tires on the passenger side were flat and they were just out of there. I actually noticed that the tire in the front was just a whole different wheel completely. I was like, where's the original wheel, man? This one needed a lock and everything. But when I started going through the car, I seen and I found the original tire and wheel, and I went outside and aired that thing up. So since I found a replacement for the front wheel, it was time for me to jack up the back wheel so we could replace that tire, because that tire was out of there, dry rotted and all that. So I went to my homie's tire shop up the street. He gave me a good used tire for $20 just to replace it, just so I can get it home and the tire will be good and aired up, man. I ain't gonna lie, my boy Thabo always gets me right, man. He balanced the tire for me and he sent me on my way. I got back to the car and I aired up the other tires that I didn't replace that was on the driver's side, and it looked like we is good to go. All tires is aired up. Now the next step is we're gonna see if this car can hold some coolant. Obviously this car was in a wreck and they actually ran over something in the front, so instead of being stupid and just wasting money on coolant, let's go ahead and put some water in there just in case it has a leak, which it most likely does because it ran over something in the front and there's no coolant in there. So let's go ahead and check it out, man. And just like I thought, man, it's definitely leaking. It looked like the condenser and the radiator got hit. But look at that little pretty grasshopper. But I knew it was leaking, so I called my tow man. He got me right. Let's go ahead and get it towed to the house, man, so we can see the real problems and see what we can do to fix it. This car's been thirsty. It ain't had gas in it in years. So I finally filled the car with gas and the car started. It started and it stayed running. Let's get it. $10, gave it a little bit less than half a tank. The car sounds pretty good. There's a couple things rubbing under there, but I'm gonna handle it. So since I finally got the car home, I can finally see the damage that was done and why this car was abandoned. And I can see that the radiator support got pushed back, and when it got pushed back into the belt into some AC lines. So we gotta replace both of those. So me and Frank Otto, man, we went ahead and went old school, and we got a chain and we used our tree, and we went ahead and tried to pull this stuff out so we can start pulling out the radiator and everything else. Let's get it. We pulled out the radiator support as best as we could. And as soon as we got it apart, man, we started removing the condenser, fans, and the radiator to see what all was damaged and what we got to replace. And as soon as I seen them fans, man, I noticed the reservoir and it was cracked and it will never be able to hold coolant. And I noticed the reservoir was connected to the fan, so that means we gotta replace the whole thing. So after examining all the parts, man, we noticed the only thing that we can keep out of all these is just the blade. Literally out of the fan, condenser, and the radiator, the only thing we can keep is the blade that goes to the fan. And as much as I hate the dealership, man, I had to end up going to the dealership because nobody had the parts I needed or can get me the parts in a reasonable time. So I had to take my ass to the dealership, man, and get these parts.
Did you order it over the counter or over the front?
Over the counter.
Okay, all right, so you already have it.
Yes, sir. Fortunately, I found the radiator and the condenser at a good price elsewhere, but I still needed the fan motor and the radiator shroud, so I had to just go ahead and get it from the dealership, and that's what I did.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Got all the parts I need. Now it's time to go put these things in. Let's get it. So we got back from the dealership and we got straight to work, man. We started putting in a new condenser and new radiator, and we was not doing no playing. Unfortunately, it started raining and I couldn't record the whole process, but we got everything in. And now it's time to go to Walmart and get some coolant, and let's do the test and see if it holds coolant now. Let's get it. Now, before I actually put the coolant in, I always start off with putting water in because I'm confident in my work, but sometimes players do mess up. So we put the water in to make sure there ain't no more leaks. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather waste the water that's free instead of the coolant that I just paid my money on. You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and see if there's any leaks. And from the look of it, it looked like we leak free. So you better stop playing with me, Lil Barry. Let's get it. So we started filling up the car with the coolant, getting it to the correct level that it gotta be, you feel me? Putting the coolant in the new reservoir because the first reservoir was out of there. But we got everything to the correct levels. Now me and Frank Otto, we went ahead and started changing the belt because when the radiator support got pushed back, it started scraping the belt and it left the belt kind of shredded. So it was only right that we changed that out, you feel me? We took off the damaged belt and we measured it with the new belt just to make sure it's the correct one and it's the same length. So let's go ahead and put the new one on and get rid of this old one. And let's get to it. We bringing this 2015 Hyundai back to life. So you better stop playing with me and Frank Otto, man. Let's get it.
No leaks. And that noise is this. See, that's just rubbing. See? Now it's sounding good as hell. But this is where all the damage is right here. This is where all the damage is. We replaced all the radiators, condensers, all that. But now this car is back in the road. 4 years later, it's been abandoned. It's been sitting there, 70-something thousand miles, but we about to get it back right.
So after all this work, we finally got the car running, man, and we finally got this car sounding good. But we're not even halfway done, if you can even believe it. We still got a lot of work to do. So please stay tuned. Get ready for part 3. This is part 2. We're bringing back this 2015 Hyundai Accent. It's been abandoned since 2018. So stop playing with me. Barry Otto, Frank Otto.